This video here will be kind of in two parts per se. I'm planning to try to show some text of some dreams that I've had about my sister. And I did another video just now that has to do with the status quo in heaven. And I'm doing a lot of this from memory for this video because I do have the dreams written down. People who have had near-death experiences have said that they see their loved ones. And in the case of one girl that was on In Search Of, she had a near-death experience as a child. She said she had polio and she died. She said, I became aware of the fact that there were these women around me, and she said one of them called out my name. And she goes through the process of explaining that it was her grandmother, and the grandmother had said that you know, if you want to go back to Earth you can, but you have to turn around right now and go and not even look back. Well, this young girl gets to a dry riverbed and she runs across it, and she says, all of a sudden I'm standing in front of a vertical sand dune, which is just like a wall of sand that goes straight up. She says, I'm clawing at this thing, I'm climbing to get up to the top, because she says, I don't want to stay, I want to go back. And she says every time I climbed up, I would fall back down and I would climb up again. And she said, finally I got to the top and I'm totally exhausted. And she says, I fall to the other side of the sand dune, and she says, the next second I wake up and I'm actually in my own bed. And she had said that she died from the polio because she had stopped breathing. She couldn't swallow anymore, meaning that her throat had totally closed up and she couldn't get air anymore. And that sand dune that she saw is very much like my own experience of my sister. This is the first time that I had recorded having seen Leanne in 11 years, and that was 1994 when I first had this, when I saw this dream. She is she's floating above the trees at our home in College Park, and this is my dream. I'm seeing her from my bedroom window. So I run downstairs, I run out into the yard, and I see her, and then all of a sudden I realize there's this brick wall in the yard. I mean, it has to be probably 10 feet or more up in the sky. So I start climbing this wall, and I'm in the same boat. I fall back down, I climb up some more, and I almost get to the top, and then I'm able to talk to Lee because she can hear me and I can hear her. And you know, I told her I loved her, and she said to me, I know, I love you. And that was pretty much, that's the end of that dream. Another dream that I had probably in the last 20 years, because this is even before my father died. I'm back in Florida, and my sister often had fights with my mother, and in this dream it got to really the head, so to speak, because she moved out. And in the dream you never think to look for her or to try to contact her after she left, because subconsciously your mind already knew she's dead, she's gone, so there's no reason to look for her. So then the dream continues years into it. It's like 20 years later, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, why didn't I try to find Lee? Why couldn't I contact her? And so I asked my mother in the dream, where is she? I'd like to go meet her to talk with her. And my mother said, I don't know where she is. So I had a private investigator in the dream find where she was located, and I went to see her. And when I saw her, I came into her apartment, and the first thing I noticed was she did not look the same as I remembered her. She looked much older. But really, the idea that was years later when I started looking for her, that could have been a subtext of the whole thing, because maybe she left and then a few weeks or months went by and then I said I'd like to find out where Leanne is and talk to her. But she looked different when I met her, and beyond that she was different as far as intellectually. She was much more mature, she was much smarter. And my feeling about this now is that I had an out-of-body experience, because I saw her as she looks now in heaven. And when I asked her, I said, are you ever going to come back and visit us again? Because this is in the dream. And she said this, I'll never come back again. I'll never come to see you, Mother or Dad, ever. And when I was looking over this dream and writing it, I realized that's why she said what she did. She couldn't come back because she's dead. She's not here on earth anymore. So me seeing her, interacting with her, everything proved that she was in heaven right now when I was having that dream, and I'm talking to her just like I'm talking to you in this video, and she's saying to me, I can't come back. I won't come back because I can't. And that was kind of like, for me, reading the dream, it's like wake-up call. I just had an out-of-body experience, or I had a out-of-body experience where I went to heaven and I talked to Lee, and I got to see her as she was, or as she is today in heaven. But I can't remember much of what she looks like, because now you're talking 21 years ago, or yeah, 21 years ago. A third dream that I think is very relevant today is where I'm in the house in College Park again. Leanne's in her room and I'm standing at her window, and I turn around and here's Leanne standing near this this dresser, because she had a mirror mounted with it, and there's a man sitting there, or a young man sitting in her chair. And this is how I described him in my dream. He had blackish brown hair, and he was 25 years old. Now what does that make you think of? Because I'm going to be showing in a minute a picture of what Jesus looks like. And this has actually been verified by 2 children who had near-death experiences. This is how Jesus looks right now. And that's how I described how Jesus, or how this man looked in my dream. I believe I was with Jesus and Leanne together in that dream. And this is before my father died, so I could not possibly have known what he looked like or what Jesus looked like, because this is before those children had their dreams, or they could actually visually, artistically create this picture. And yet I wrote out as best I could on this dream, and this was 1998 when I had this dream, so this is now 17 years ago. And I think it's another out-of-body experience. I had a dream, or maybe that Leanne communicated with me through that dream and said, me and Jesus are together here, and she created whatever maybe I would relate to, and that was her bedroom, you know, because hers was right next to mine. And again, these dreams relate to things that have to do with either putting closure to what you never had to do, as far as that relationship you had with your brother or sister before they died. Because now, at least in those instances, I feel like I had a chance to do something I could not have done otherwise. The only other dream that is relevant, I think, is that I went to I used to work for a plant company over in Griffin. It was called the William Carter Company. They had a large clothing plant where they make children's clothes, and my sister appeared in the plant as one of the workers. And we went down to the cafeteria to have something to eat, because she didn't recognize me in the dream, by the way. We went down there. I said, I'd like to talk with you for a few minutes. And she kept thinking, she was asking me, who are you? I said, well, I work here anyway, but I'm your brother. And she said, I don't have a brother, So when we got to the cafeteria, I told her who I was. I told her what was going to happen to her. She was going to die in a fire at a supermarket. I told her everything. And finally it clicked in her mind, and she realized who I was. And I said, you've got to stop this from happening. You have to stop yourself going into that supermarket. And she said, I will. I won't do it. I won't go. But all of the people in the canteen who were eating at the same time, and I guess they overheard us, they start crying because they're like, I can't believe that was going to happen, or they didn't believe that Leanne would die that horrible way. And anyway, pretty much that's how the dream ends. But there was no way you could alter what happened. But I got to hug her that one time in that dream, and I never had a chance to hug her again, ever again, because that was it. I haven't had any more dreams about Leanne since. And then my father, after he died, I had a dream a couple of years ago where we're trying to find him in the dream. And my sister appeared in the dream with my mother, but I know this was a created delusion, because we're looking for him. We're talking to people. They're saying, yeah, he was just here, you missed him. We never find him. And then towards the end of the dream, people start saying, I think your father's dead, because nobody's seen him since. And it's like your soul, I think, is trying to search him out to find him. But see, when he went to heaven, that was it. And unless he tries to communicate with me, there's nothing you can do. So I think that was an out-of-body experience on my behalf again, that I was trying to search him out and contact everybody I could think of who might know where Dad was. And that was not too long after he died that I had that dream, or it was after the last dream where he appeared. And in the dream, I never saw him. I never saw Dad. All I kept thinking was, he either works for the government, or he's doing something secretive and he can't let anybody know he's alive. And that's the impression I got the whole dream. He's doing things without people knowing it, and he's doing it because God's sending him on missions or places where he can help people. But he can't communicate anymore with me, with Mother, with Leanne, with anybody. That's the impression I got from that dream. That he was saying, I can't contact you anymore, but I'm still very much active doing things. That God is sending me to do things. And that was how the dream for that ended. That we never found him. All we've ever heard in the dream from beginning to end was that he was doing different things secretly for somebody, the federal government maybe or something. Indirectly, I think he's saying, I can't contact you, but you can know I'm out there and I'm thinking about you and Lee and Mother, and that's as much of it as I can do, because now I have other things that God wants me to do, and now that I'm in heaven. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what this video has been about.